Hi, today is Thursday, and we are here making a quick video for our friend Taisha Velasquez over at Home Partners. So we wanted to make a quick video just to kind of share the platform and what it does. We're going to send you guys a slide presentation, but we also want to talk about what the platform does and actually be able to show you how it works through distressed real estate deals. So if you notice on the screen, this is an AppSheet application. AppSheet is a low-code platform that builds apps very quickly on the Google Cloud platform. And the app we're showing you today, which is the only app we show in these presentations because each one of our clients requests confidentiality with their application. So we started the Abandoned Homes Project a few years ago, which is a for-profit land bank that buys and sells distressed real estate and does so in a manner that causes reinvestment into some of the poor urban areas of Cleveland. And so this particular platform runs the abandoned homes projects acquisition process or distressed real estate procurement process. The terms are interchangeable. We use them both. And so it's watching roughly 5,000 properties at any given time. And that's a lot of real estate to watch and constantly get updates on what's going on with the physical characteristics of the property, and also what's going on with the legal and title characteristics of the property, because we combine all of those things and we come up with the score. And just to show you what that looks like, in the Abandoned Homes Project's case, we're looking for something very specific. We're looking for vacant, single-family residential, 1,000 to 1,500 square feet, middle of the block, no obsolescences, so not next to a abandoned apartment building or abandoned building or schools. We're looking for properties that do not have shared driveways, that do not have enclosed porches or retaining walls, because of the cost to renovate those specialty type property characteristics for our partners. So in this case, we're very, very focused on what we're looking for. And so what we do is we take all of the real estate in Cleveland and then we narrow that down to properties that are showing distress. Distress could be foreclosure, tax delinquency, divorce, violations for building and housing codes, whatever our system is deeming to be what we call the life events that lead a seller to be in distress or a property owner to be in distress, and for that distress to most likely lead to a distress sale in the next 1 to 5 years. So we're looking at currently vacant properties and properties that our system is telling us are at risk of being vacant in the next 1 to 5 years. And in this particular case, under Abandoned Homes Project, we have 3 scores we look at: the T-score, the C-score, and the tier. The T-score tells us the likelihood that the next transfer of this real estate is going to be a distress sale. So in this case, a 96% score indicates the system is 96% sure that the next sale of this property is going to be a distress sale. And if we scroll a little bit down and look at some of the characteristics of this property, we can see that the property is $31,000 behind on taxes. The water and sewer bills are delinquent. The city has boarded up the house. The city has also begun to cut the grass. So all of these things are telling us that the next likely event here is a distress sale. In this case, we know that that event is going to be the sale of this property at a tax auction, because that $31,000 delinquent taxes just happens to be significantly more than the property is worth, which is another metric that we track in our system. So the T-score is 96. We haven't developed a C-score yet. A C-score is a confidence score. And this is a prototype that's actually being built now. So we may do another video 2 or 3 weeks down the road when we have built some of the C-score stuff and began to test it for this particular app. But the confidence score is just simply a metric to tell us how sure are we that the property that we're looking at fits the profile of what we need to go after. And in this case, we're going to have a high confidence score because all of the property characteristics are there, those physical characteristics we're looking for. It's going to be a distress sale. We know that it's going to go to the sheriff's auction because it's the only way we're going to clear underwater property taxes, because there's no way to negotiate those down without it going to an auction. So we're going to know for sure at some point that this property fits our profile, in which case we're going to move this further down the funnel. And so let me go back to the dashboard. And so this is essentially a CRM app, but this is actually the pre-CRM stage. And what I mean by pre-CRM is we are gathering data and we're refining the leads, and we expect a number of these leads to ultimately to wind up in our CRM software. As I'll show you in a moment, Abandoned Homes Project uses Pipedrive. We have clients that use Salesforce or HubSpot, Freshworks. It really doesn't matter what the CRM is, as long as it has an API, we can push that information right over to the CRM when the time comes. And so a couple of things here we want to talk about on the dashboard, and just go through the stages. So new is obviously we haven't done any research on this property yet. In order to go from new to pending approval, this is where our infamous case management team gets involved. It is comprised of title examiners, attorneys, behavior psychologists on 4 different continents, some employees, some work as freelancers. And we have our own title search operations in the Philippines, which does all of our title searches at night while we're asleep and has that information in the system and fresh for us when we log in the morning. And so our team in the Philippines is trained to, they're all title abstractors by trade. So they're going to log into American Property Records and they're going to pull all the data we need, and we're going to refine that data and we're going to push it over to inspection. And this is where we have built a proprietary script application, if you will, that handles our inspections, because we are able to add and subtract properties from that inspection route on the fly. And we're able to schedule the inspections up to 2 years out. And I'll show you why that's important when we get down to the monitor stage. In the skip trace stage, this is where we are beginning to work on vacant properties and identifying where the owner is. If the property owner lives in the property, then we don't have to worry about this stage. But many of the properties, as you can imagine, the Abandoned Homes Project is mostly targeting abandoned properties, and finding out where the property owner is so that we can market to them is a very important step in the system. The next stage is our MQL stage, which stands for Marketing Qualified Lead. This is just the final stage where we take a look at everything. Automation has scored everything, and we just want somebody with real estate title experience to take a look at it manually before we move that lead on to the next stage, so that we can decide whether or not this is a property that we want to put into our target property portfolio. Mailroom stage is just an automated stage where as soon as we drag that there, we can trigger our direct mail or email or SMS, whatever, social media, whatever type of campaign we're using to target the owners of these particular properties and try to convince them to come into a program that we're running where we are acquiring distressed real estate for the purpose of obviously making profitable real estate investments, but also improving the community and creating money that we can then, creating revenue streams that allow us to then reinvest in the community and complete our social mission. And then down at the bottom, you're going to see the monitor stage. You're going to see 485 properties are currently in this stage. This is another proprietary, unique feature to how we do things here at Partial Revenue. So the idea is that every property owner has a tenure, and that tenure eventually comes to an end. And what you see here are properties that are being monitored. They are not ripe yet to be real estate deals that we're going to attempt to go after. However, we're going to consistently watch every piece of real estate that passes through the platform in perpetuity, because the idea is that when that owner is done with that property, if that's going to be a distressed sale, then we want to be involved. And so here, there's a ton of information here, but mostly pay attention to the monitor workflow stage. So these two numbers tell our system what to tell our employees to do. The first number is how many days are going to pass before we go buy this property again with our mobile technology, capture images, and use AI to read those images and interpret them so we can understand what's going on with the property physically. The next number is the number of days that are going to pass before we pull a title exam on this property and take a look at how the owner's doing. Are they paying their taxes on time? Are they paying their mortgage on time? Are people filing mechanics liens on them because they're not paying for contractors? Whatever the case might be, So in this case, 720 means that every 720 days, we are going to continue to monitor the physical appearance of this property and the legal and title issues that are impacting this property. And if we begin to, if the score begins to rise, the system is going to tell us, hey, you've been watching this property for 2 years or 4 years or 6 years. Now it's beginning to bubble up into into the higher tier. And the higher tiers tell us the higher the tier, top 1%, top 3%, the higher quality the lead has become. And when it gets to a certain point, then we want to trigger a workflow to try to acquire or reacquire that property if it's a property that we've previously acquired. So that's what it looks like on the back end as we work through those stages: collect data, refine data, interpret data, and understand what each data set in each particular property is telling us when it comes to our acquisition strategies. So think of it as a big bucket of feasibility studies. And within that bucket of feasibility studies, each property has its own feasibility study. And we're updating that based on the monitor workflow every so many days. And so that's the back end. And now we switch over to the front end. This is what that looks like on, wait a minute. It looks like the tab didn't follow me. Okay, I'm back. Had a little technical difficulty there. So, as I said before, the Abandoned Homes Project uses Pipedrive as its CRM, and our pre-CRM app, which are the apps that we spin off of our data cloud, they are able to turn just about any CRM into a distressed real estate procurement tool. And so, on the front end, this is what everything looks like as it's being worked by the case management team within the Abandoned Homes Project. These are all properties that are at various stages in the workflow. The ones all the way down at the end are the ones that have filed year to date, and they represent properties that have begun to go down the path from being vacant and abandoned and unproductive to being fixed up and occupied and productive, which of course generates income, property, and sales tax revenues. And that's what partial revenue is. We named the company after our proprietary algorithm called partial revenue, which simply means the money that flows from land. And because our primary customers, our primary client base is our governments, the purpose of our partial revenue platform is to work distressed real estate deals in such a manner that increase income, property, and sales tax revenues, and give a 5-year forecast so that we can understand how targeting certain properties helps us to accomplish our long-term goal, and not just at the closing, but what that's going to look like for the next 5 years. And so the more properties we can take from distressed and unproductive to productive, the more we can increase tax revenues, the more we can help communities, and the more we can achieve our own internal objectives and the objectives of our partners as well. So I'll be around for any questions after the presentation. Thanks for listening.